Around 1980, a single mother of a toddler, Dorothy Jane Scott, started getting threatening phone calls at work. She paid the calls little attention until one night when the ominous voice on the other end of the line instructed her to look outside. On her car's windscreen was a single withered rose. The stalker would alternate between declaring his love for her and making threats of physical harm. The caller's voice sounded familiar, but Dorothy couldn't place who it was. And she never got to find out. At a staff meeting, Dorothy noticed that one of her co-workers appeared unwell. She and another co-worker took the man to a neighboring hospital. Dorothy went outside to the parking lot while her two co-workers waited for the prescription to be filled. She wasn't seen again after that. According to her co-workers' testimony, they went outside to meet her in the parking lot after she didn't return. They suspected a problem had occurred with her son when they spotted her car rushing away as soon as they left the building. Neither her son nor anyone else ever saw or heard from Dorothy again. Her burned remains were discovered at a construction site 4 years later. The discovery of a collection of dog bones next to her remains added even more confusion to the case. No one has ever been found guilty or detained on suspicion. The caller has never been located.
Yang Xinhai, dubbed the monster killer by the Chinese media, is thought to be the worst serial killer in China's modern history. From 1999 to 2003, he was accountable for more than 67 homicides and 23 *PES. The homicides committed by Yang occurred between 1999 and 2003. He would break into his victims' homes at night, slaying every person inside, primarily farmers, with axes, hammers, and shovels, often an entire family. He always wore brand new clothing and oversized shoes. In one horrific homicide case, Xinhai forced the victim's husband and their 6-year-old daughter to watch as he *ped the woman. He slayed them afterward. At the time of his arrest, various media sources claimed that Yang's motivation for the homicides was revenge against society due to a bad breakup. According to rumors, his girlfriend broke up with him due to his past convictions for *PE and stealing. On February 14, 2004, Xinhai was executed by firing squad. In 1946, in Texarkana, 4 horrifying crimes occurred in less than 3 months. On the Texas side of the town, 3 violent incidents targeted young people parked in lovers' lanes. The fourth, on the Arkansas side, was the shooting of an elderly couple in their remote farmstead. After the shooting spree, 5 individuals were lethally shot, and 3 suffered critical injuries. The cops received very little information from the distraught survivors. The homicides shook the community to its grounds. While husbands were away on business trips, women packed up their belongings, took their kids, and checked into the hotel. Others devised security systems in the style of Rube Goldberg by connecting pots and pans to wire laid throughout their property. Normally unarmed citizens placed pallets on the floor so their kids could lie next to them as they slept with loaded pistols. Texarkana Gazette dubbed the assailant the Phantom Killer. Several books about the case have been written, and a highly fictionalized film called The Town That Dreaded Sundown was made in 1976. In 2014, a remake of the original movie was released. The Texas Department of Public Safety once referred to Texarkana's serial killings as the #1 unsolved murder case in Texas history. I used to work in a hospital, in the IT department, and we did a number of overnight rollouts, as well as on-call work/response when issues occurred overnight. Many weird things happened or appeared to happen. The thing that struck me as oddest was when I saw the coroner running at full speed down the corridor, in the opposite direction, towards the morgue. This guy, an older guy in his 50s or so, was going at full speed. I had never seen him above an amble before, but this time he was really going for it. As he got close to me he yelled, "Out of the way, I got another live one." I am not sure what was more disturbing, the fact that he was dealing with what I could only assume was a deceased body that now appeared to be alive, or the fact he said another. Robert Hansen was a reliable husband, father, and respected part of Anchorage society. The monickered Butcher Baker, however, held many sinister secrets. Between 1971 and 1983, he abducted, assaulted, and slayed at least 17 women aged 16 to 41. Hansen is thought to have commenced homicides around 1972. His modus operandi involved picking up a *X worker in his car and, while holding her at gunpoint, driving her to his house, where he would *PE her. He would then take the victim to a remote location where he would hunt her like a wild animal before finalizing the demise. Hansen admitted that he took pleasure in using a knife and a gun to prey on his victims. Additionally, he acknowledged that he had little regard for women or their feelings. Hansen considered them to be just animals, things to be slain and hunted. In 1983, he was arrested, found guilty, and given a 461-year prison term with no chance of parole. He passed away in 2014 at 75 from natural causes due to lingering health conditions. The homicide of Sylvia Likens was dubbed the worst crime ever perpetrated in Indiana. 50 years later, the title remains. On October 26, 1965, police discovered Sylvia Likens' malnourished body sprawled on a filthy mattress in the Indianapolis home of 37-year-old Gertrude Banaszewski, mother of 7 and the mind behind the girl's horrific demise. The body was covered in more than 150 wounds, including burns and cuts. Reportedly, Likens' body was used as a practice dummy for judo flips and punches, carving words into her stomach with a needle, and many more vicious attacks. Sylvia and her sister Jenny were housed with Banaszewski for $20 weekly by their carnival worker parents. However, Banaszewski beat the females, largely Sylvia, when the checks were late. Why neither Jenny nor Sylvia sought assistance before things got out of hand is, in fact, one of the unsolved mysteries surrounding the case. However, Banaszewski wasn't the only one responsible for Sylvia's demise. A large group of local kids watched or participated in the vicious attacks, along with some of Banaszewski's kids, some as young as 10. Even more astonishing is that all the criminals involved eventually got off on their misdeeds, some following laughably short prison terms. In his adolescence, Ira Einhorn gave himself the moniker, the Unicorn, his German last name translated into English. When he slayed his ex-girlfriend Holly Maddox, Einhorn was an environmentalist and supporter of the anti-war movement. After leaving Einhorn's Philadelphia residence in early September 1977 to collect her belongings, Maddox vanished. When authorities questioned Maddox's ex-boyfriend about her whereabouts a few weeks after the disappearance, he said she had disappeared en route to the local co-op. 18 months later, the police discovered Maddox's partially mummified body in a trunk in Einhorn's closet after neighbors complained to the authorities about a foul stench. Einhorn fled to Europe a few days before he was set to go on trial. As he had previously been arraigned, Einhorn was tried, found guilty, and given a sentence in absentia. Despite this, Einhorn spent 23 years in France and even got married while deftly avoiding extradition. In 2002, the American government was able to repatriate him and reconvict him. Defending himself, he stated that the CIA had slayed his ex-girlfriend and had set him up. Einhorn was convicted and served a life sentence without the chance of parole until he passed away in prison in 2020. American serial killer Donald Henry Gaskins boldly proclaimed to have stabbed, shot, drowned, and poisoned hundreds of people. Due to his small frame, his friends and relatives referred to him as Pee-wee. He was under 130 pounds and about 5 feet 2 inches tall. Despite asserting that he slayed between 100 and 110 people, investigators never discovered concrete proof of the homicides. 10 of the 15 victims Gaskins was verified to have slain during his lifetime were under 25 years old, and 5 were underage. After attempting self-harm in prison, Gaskins was executed in the electric chair on September 6, 1991. John Wayne Gacy was well known for dressing up as a clown at children's parties, but his clown masks covered a demonic visage. Between 1972 and 1978, he murdered and tortured 33 young men and boys in Cook County, Illinois. Gacy would usually entice a victim to his house and deceive him into donning handcuffs on the pretense of showing him a magic trick. Then, after torturing and ping his victim, he would asphyxiate or fatally strangle him with a garrote. In Gacy's childhood, he was often named Sissy and Mama's Boy, who would probably grow up gay, since his mother always sought to protect him from his father's abuse. Although Gacy believed he was never good enough, in his father's eyes, he continued to adore him nonetheless. In 1949, the father of Gacy received word that he and another boy had been observed inappropriately touching a young girl. His father punished him by giving him a razor strop. The same year, Gacy would occasionally be used sexually in a vehicle by a family friend. The first homicide committed by Gacy was on January 3, 1972, at the age of 29. All of Gacy's slayings were carried out within his ranch-style home close to Norridge, a Chicago suburb. Most of Gacy's victims were buried in the basement of his house. The remains of his final 4 victims were dumped in Wisconsin's Des Plaines River. In 1994, the killer clown was apprehended and executed by lethal injection. In February 1957, in Philadelphia, a college student discovered a young boy's remains in the woods and called the police to report his horrifying find. Visibly severely beaten, the boy was found unresponsive inside an old bassinet box. No one knew who the young victim was. Numerous people came forward with information about the crime. Still, the police could not verify any of their claims, and many theories were dismissed. However, the media and police have shown much interest in 2 theories. Each one has been thoroughly examined. In February 2002, a woman, only known as Martha, brought forward one of the main case theories. Martha asserted that the boy named Jonathan was bought from his biological parents in the summer of 1954 by her violent mother. She claimed that the boy experienced physical and carnal torture inside the home. Martha knew of information that had not been made public, raising the police's attention to her statement. The woman claimed that the young boy had baked beans just before being battered to demise, supporting the autopsy findings. She also said that he had been showered just before he passed away, which was consistent with the coroner's discovery of water-pruned fingertips. Although Martha's testimony appeared consistent with the evidence, her extensive history of mental illness rendered her an unreliable witness. The case stays unsolved and is open to this date. The boy remains unidentified, and his grave in Philadelphia at Ivy Hill Cemetery has a large headstone bearing the words, "America's Unknown Child."